Hi, my name is Missy Apple Knotts, and I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. And I was raised in Oaklandon, Indiana, over on the northeast side of Indy, where I was the youngest of 10 kids, 5 boys and 4 girls. I'm the 5th girl, so we were evenly matched. Our upbringing was challenging. There was a lot of trauma. Our mother had schizophrenia diagnosed long before I ever hit this planet. And my dad had anger issues and other issues. So we just tried to stay clear of him. And pretty much everybody funded for themselves. So I had a little help from my older siblings, but I say like we were all on fire trying to find our way out. So that was the world that I grew up in. You didn't complain, you didn't voice your opinions or your needs or your hurts even. You had to just kind of suck it up and endure. So fast forward, I go to college, I get out of the house, I get married, and I had my first baby, little boy. He was 6 months old, and I found myself needing to go to the dentist. So the day came, sitting in the chair. They start the nitrous. It was a cannula that just went into my nose and, breathe that, started to chill out. They started the procedure and everything was going well until the dentist turned to me and said, Missy, you need to breathe more. So breathe through your nose, breathe more. So I did that. And then there was another point where he said, okay, slow your breathing down, Missy. You breathe through your nose. You've got this. So I'm breathing through my nose. And eventually I get to a place where I'm like, something's not right, but I'm assessing my body head to toe and trying to figure out, is this me? Perhaps, probably it's me. I'm, making too much. I'm too sensitive. Maybe something's wrong, but probably not. Just relax, breathe through your nose like they've been telling you to do. And eventually I got to a place where something is wrong. Something's very wrong. And by the time I realized this, I don't know how much time had passed, but I could not talk to tell them something's wrong, even if I'd wanted to. They may have turned to me and said, breathe, Missy, maybe a couple of more times, but all of a sudden, everything is black. And I'm in a place that I've never been before, and I don't have context in which to describe, but the closest thing I can get to describing it to you is that I was in a form of outer space. It was all dark around me and maybe little pinpoints of light everywhere. But the overwhelming feeling that I had was that of complete peace, deep, deep, deep satisfaction, happiness, love, just complete peace is how I describe it. And I said, not with my mouth, I didn't have a body. It was all I was thinking, your inside thoughts, thinking, is this heaven? And I started to see a light. It was up and to my right and a pinpoint of light. And it just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it was just right here. I could still see the dark with the lights around, but this light, and it was the whitest light I'd ever seen. And I'm talking to the light. It never talked back to me, but I'm talking to the light saying, is this heaven? If this is heaven, I do not want to go back. And I had a 6-month at home. And the only thing I've ever wanted to do right was to be an exceptional mother. So for me to have this thought initially, forget everything else, I want to stay in this place, was saying a lot. And so I'm here just taking this in and wanting to stay. And then a thought came, and this sounds weird, but this is what happened. It's like it came from up here, over my left shoulder, came in. Mason is 6 months old. There's no way I can leave him. There's no way I can leave him with my ex-husband, is actually what I thought. There's no way I can leave him. But I felt this pull of this peace and this place that I was in and not wanting to leave. And then I had another thought that came from over my right shoulder. My dearest friend, Shelly, and I had just gotten in a big fight the day before. I can't remember what about. we're fine now, but there had been a substantial fight. And I had the thought, if I were to pass, she would be devastated. I cannot leave and not have this right. And as soon as I had that thought, I was back, and they were screaming in my face. The doctor and the nurses screaming in my face, Missy, breathe, Missy, breathe. What they had experienced on the other side, they thought I had a seizure. Apparently I passed out. My face, my lips, everything went like gray. My lips were blue. I had clamped down while they had their hands in my mouth and almost bit I took their nail off. And they thought I had a seizure because I just clamped and passed out and I'm blue, and they're trying to get me back and revived. So I wake up to this chaos, and then sitting in this chair proceeded to be sick for like 2 hours, and then ended up in the emergency room where they could not tell what was wrong. And it ended up sending me home that night. The next day, I get a call from the dentist and found out that when they had built the new building where I went for this appointment, they had actually plumbed the nitrous oxide and the oxygen backwards. They're two different size pipes, they're two different color pipes, but they still managed to get them reversed. So when they were dialing in 95% oxygen and 5% nitrous oxide for me, it was actually the reverse. It was 95% nitrous and 5% oxygen. And when they were telling me, breathe through your nose, I was just taking in, like I had this severe oxygen deprivation that was happening to the point where I just passed out, stopped breathing, turned blue, the whole thing. So I ended up seeing a variety of doctors, more doctor's appointments than I can count, because this was sort of a rare thing. But I had EKGs and all the tests that showed the slowed brain waves and that I couldn't process. I was in the office the next day of some of these doctors, and they were quizzing me, what's your son's name? I could barely say that. When was his birthday? I could not recall that. Like, I got my newborn son's birthday wrong. Of course I know my children's birthdays, but I couldn't recall it. And so they went through a really hard time of recovery, and it was quite challenging. And I sort of tucked away what I've come to learn, that this was a near-death experience. I've tucked it away for many years. This was 20 years ago that this happened. And it wasn't until, maybe 5 years ago that I started, a friend gave me a book about near-death experiences, and I started reading about it. And I happened upon a few stories that started out just like what I had experienced. Going into this place that was almost like outer space, talking to the light, and of course this feeling of this deep, deep peace and satisfaction and contentment, and just like I've never felt since I was there. I do believe that there is a God. I believe that I was on the doorstep of heaven. And why I couldn't have gone on to see the rest of heaven, I would have loved that, but I probably wouldn't have come back. I asked God, why couldn't I have gone on? But I think I got just what I needed, because that whole experience has been a real anchor for me in the last 5 years as I've read more about others' experiences. I did not have the best example of a father growing up. And when people talk about God or Jesus as our heavenly Father and trust your Father, I can never relate to that. That would conjure up all kinds of other feelings for me. But when I would read these books and these other accounts of others that actually went in and talked to God or talked to Jesus, and the love and the life reviews and all the things that are common with NDEs, that God I could relate to. That God I could trust. That gave me such a deep satisfaction and just reminded me of the reality that there's something much bigger than what we see here. I believe that we are living in a space. I recently heard another NDE account where she said we're near living, right? This isn't quite, I think, what it's our reality, but this isn't what it's all about. I think that this is just a fraction of what we're going to go on to live after we leave our bodies. It brings me a lot of hope in difficult circumstances of life that come our way in life. It's like you never arrive and then you're just happy and you're content. This up and down, taking the waves that hit us in life that can be quite challenging. I rely back on this experience of there's something bigger. There is peace to be had. There is trust to be given, that there's a plan for my life. I do believe that as well, that there's a plan and a purpose for each one of us here. And it also has helped me step into challenges that come my way. Like, what am I to learn through this challenge? Why have I been put on this planet? And I went through this extremely difficult childhood that I've written a memoir about called Falling Far, or The Apple Falls Far, but I'm going to call it Falling Far, where I've learned how to cope with this trauma that my body has remembered, that maybe my mind hasn't, and now it's unfolding and revealing itself in ways as I get older in life. But I believe that we each have a purpose, and that when we hit these challenges, some of these challenges are extremely difficult. What am I to learn through this? What am I to work out in this? And when I get curious about it and I respond rather than react, life, it's doable. I can learn, I can march on, I can be different, I can do better, I can look for the next right thing, I can continue to go on. And I have that hope that eventually I'm going to get back to that peaceful place and get past the doorstep of heaven. And along the way, I hope to encourage others and to help others, and not only with my book, but with just sharing my story and sharing what I've learned along the way. So I count this near-death experience, this NDE, it was a gift. It was a huge gift in my life that I believe that God gave me, just to help me hold on to hope that there is something bigger and that there's a purpose for my life. So thanks so much for letting me share today.